Welcome back, everybody, and we're coming into the home stretch with our last two amazing presentations for the day. And I'd like to introduce and welcome Simone O'Sullivan. Simone is the Director of Energy Growth at Energy Estate. Most of her professional career has centred around climate change, renewable energies and utilities, from consulting firms such as PwC to government agencies and large utility companies. Simone has a track record in helping forecast, position and develop new business models with a strong focus on partnerships and collaboration. Simone is a creative thinker with a financial background and a solid understanding of renewable energy technology and circular economy principles. Please welcome to the platform, Simone O'Sullivan.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Nicola. Much appreciated. Currently, I'm working for a company called Energy Estate, as Nicola mentioned, and we are doing some super exciting things in the Hunter right now. We are a small development company who has got a really big vision around what we can do around renewable energy in Australia. We have a number of hubs, in fact 10 hubs around Australia and New Zealand, and we're currently in the middle of a capital raise to be able to develop out these hubs in a substantial way. We have our hubs consist of a number of different diversified technologies around renewable energy, but also around hydrogen and some of the derivatives that it can also produce that I can talk about a little bit in a moment. We have a very big mandate around the decarbonisation of the energy industry in Australia as a result of these hubs, and this is going to require an enormous amount of skills and labour and planning to be able to roll these out going forward. So let me just touch on Energy Estate and our development principles. Our development principles are very important. They very much lead to or lead us in the way that we develop all of our projects at Energy Estate. We are very much about ensuring that we connect with the local communities that we work with, the traditional owners, but we're also looking at ensuring that we're working with the business community and all of the stakeholders in the community that we work with. The Hunter region is particularly interesting for me. I love the Hunter, and the Hunter has been quite a difficult process to be able to get across all of the different stakeholders, only because there are just so many different stakeholders in the Hunter, but that makes it super interesting and a lot of fun as well. So we move from anything from coal mining through to some of the small businesses, through to the equine industry, the agricultural industry, but you also have the urban and the council areas and developed areas as well. So you have a lot of breadth and depth of different needs for the communities within the Hunter Valley. And we're out there every week pretty much just talking to people and ensuring that we're getting across our development principles, but also the messages around hydrogen and what the opportunities will be. So let me talk to you about our projects there. So we have two projects in and around the Hunter. One is called Walker Energy, and that's actually a wind and solar project that's up on the Walker Plateau. So it's just removed from the Hunter. It's up above. I can show you a map in a moment. And effectively we're co-developing that with another company, Mirrors Wind, and that one is 3.8 gigawatt of wind and solar generation. The other one, which is I'm a lot closer to, is the Hunter Hub, and that is looking at offshore wind from the Hunter Coast, but also our hydrogen project, which is in the Upper Hunter. We're proposing to have electrolyzers in the Upper Hunter with a purpose-built shared pipeline that will deliver that hydrogen from the Upper Hunter through to Newcastle to the port, with what we call spurs coming off those. So the spurs would be delivered potentially to deliver hydrogen to Williamtown Air Base or to Kurri Kurri or to a number of the other places where strategically it will be needed to be able to use the hydrogen or to be able to use it directly or indirectly through production of different derivative products. So just delving into the Hunter Hub itself. So if you can see, I wonder if you can see my marker. So we have the Walker Plateau up here, and that's the Walker project I was talking about. And this is the Hunter down here. So what we're proposing, if you can see on that map, is that we're looking around the Liddell, Muswellbrook, Hebden area here, and we have a number of land options that we're just assessing at the moment for this. And it would be commercial scale electrolysers in the Upper Hunter with this pipeline that would run down through to Newcastle. What we propose is that, and the whole premise of this, is that we would be drawing energy from the new renewable energy zones in the New England renewable energy zone, but potentially also the Central West renewable energy zone. So we're talking closely to people like EnergyCo and the Hunter Coast Renewable Energy Zone has actually also been just announced. So we're talking to the RES development teams as well. And we're also ensuring that our project will be able to be synthesised with the plans for EnergyCo and the RESs. So what we're looking at, as I say, is very large-scale commercial hydrogen. We have done our scoping study and we're in the phase of feasibility or pre-feasibility right now for that. And we're looking at the opportunity at the moment of being able to develop a green energy precinct in the Upper Hunter in and around where the electrolysers will be. So let me just talk about what the hydrogen economy actually means, what it means for the Hunter, what it means for Australia. I'm sort of pulling this back, assuming that there's a lot of people who may not know too much about that yet. I know that there are so many differing levels of knowledge about it, and things are moving so quickly that it's always good to go back to the first principles and understand, get everyone on the same playing field. So what we mentioned by the hydrogen economy and what we think that our H2N project can do is effectively, as I say, draw the renewable energy zone green energy into the electrolysers here, where we would have storage as well, and then that hydrogen would be produced. Would be delivered to manufacturing areas that would be able to produce sustainable aviation fuel. It would be able to produce green ammonia and other methanol and e-fuels for use for shipping and transport. It can also be used for liquid hydrogen directly into heavy transport. And most importantly, which is really interesting for me, is the green chemicals piece. So methanol is the building block for aerosols. It's for sealants. It's for fabrics. It's for carpets. It has such an incredible range of different opportunities for it to be, that building block for lots of manufacturing. And what we're seeing now is that there is so much more demand growing for green products across the board. And our answer for that would be to be able to produce the green hydrogen to be able to produce those green products. So just to talk a little bit about where we're at with our hydrogen project, and then I can also talk about our wind project as well. Like I say, we have completely done our scoping study, and we have commercial agreement with Eurus Energy. Eurus Energy is a Japanese company, development company, 100% owned by Toyota Toshu. They've come into our project for a small portion of investment, and this is the first toe in the water for hydrogen for them. They're actually a big wind energy developer, and this is a really exciting prospect for us, but also to be, for Eurus to be able to take a real leading role in a big project. Right now, we're in the process of negotiating with the Port of Newcastle for access for that pipeline. Port of Newcastle is already going through its own processes for looking at the future and what sort of processes and opportunity would be available at the port. So this is a great time to be talking to them. We're also we're developing a number of partnerships, and an important one that we have just negotiated is an MOU with a company called Abergeldy, who have a hydrogen storage technology that they have created, and that we'd be super excited to look at using. That storage technology is really important when you look at hydrogen, because it actually allows us to be able to store hydrogen when it's dark and calm, and we won't be producing energy for the electrolyzers, because we have to make sure that that energy is green. Therefore, we can still store and use hydrogen even when it is dark and calm to our off-takers and the people who need a 24/7 supply of hydrogen. As I said, we have a lot of options now for land in the Upper Hunter for our electrolyzers, and we're actually in the process right now of making an assessment of where the electrolyzers will be. The electrolyzers obviously will need to be well placed for accessing energy, but also accessing water. We are also talking to a number of off-takers. Obviously, Korean companies are very interested at the moment, and Japanese companies, but also, there are a number of opportunities for domestic supply. We see H2N as having a great opportunity to be able to provide the domestic market for hydrogen as well as the export market. The stakeholders, as I mentioned, are really important for us in the Hunter. We're present at the Hunter Innovation Festival. We take part in a lot of conferences such as this one. And we are also very heavily involved in looking at the Hunter Hydrogen Task Force, what the general community hydrogen going forward. And we're also meeting with several of the federal and state MPs coming up. Because we're a small development company, we do all our own advocacy. We're not paying anyone else to do that, and that gives us a great opportunity to create those important relationships directly, and to be able to understand in a quite a deep way what the needs are going forward for the stakeholders. Okay, and let me just talk to you about some of our development timelines. So we're at the moment we're looking at a capital raise, as I mentioned, for Energy Estate, which owns the H2N and our offshore wind project and Walker. And as soon as we can obtain successfully raise that capital, we will be able to start a detailed feasibility for this project immediately. If we can obtain, the sooner we obtain that, the better. And we're making the assumption that we would be able to start construction around mid-2025. What we would like to be able to do is time our operational opportunity with the connection of the New England RES, which is happening at the end of 2027, according to the ISP. So once that connection comes in, the green energy comes in, and our electrolyzers operational, pipeline will be able to be developed at the same time as the electrolyzers are put in, then we're ready to go. Obviously, there's a lot of elements in between then, and we're working hard to make sure that everything is secured. So what are the opportunities for the local and regional businesses? Well, we see that there's an enormous opportunity, and we want to be able to, according to our development principles as well, we want to make sure that we have as much local supply and local input as possible. I don't know if anyone's seen that there's a new report. Swinburne University produced the Hydrogen Skills Roadmap, which was really great. They just released it, I think, in September or even early October. And effectively, there was a great graph here that really says that Australia alone is expected to create, around 7,500 domestic hydrogen-related jobs over the next few, number of years. And we see that the Hunter will be instrumental in that. One of the reasons that we really like the Hunter and that we think that it's a fantastic opportunity for hydrogen is that there are already existing skills ready to be able to be transferred into this industry. It's also great for the infrastructure that's already there. So if you have a look at this graph, you also see that the sort of jobs that are going to be more immediate are, I guess the consultants for us would be the first, engineers, and then you move into more of the technical gas and the hydrogen production workers. And then you have the support workers that will be able to support both the production but also the operation of the electrolyzers going forward. So skills and services. So what we're looking at, and we've sort of done quite a bit of work just understanding what it is that we're going to need, what sort of skills we're going to need, and talking to our resident hydrogen experts. We have somebody who's worked for BOC and been in hydrogen for the last 40 years. He very much is of the opinion that we need a lot of skills that are already available. We need plumbers, electricians, construction workers, landscapers, concrete labourers. All of these skills are what we already have, and we're going to need a lot of them, particularly because we also are going to be competing with the build-out of the renewable energy zones at the same time. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people, and we are supporting the education and training of students coming through as well, and being able to build up that capacity to be able to do that. We also obviously need engineers and process operators. We also, from a consulting perspective, once we get our feasibility underway, we'll be looking at environmental engineers, hydrologists, and other specialist consultants to make sure that we have all of our approvals going forward. So, and then there's the whole support services that go around that hydrogen economy, and those will be needed from the feasibility stage as well. So the Queensland Hydrogen Workforce Development Roadmap's another one that's been very instrumental in being able to lead us to be able to understand what skills and how many we're going to be needing. And that's a great quote that they've said that I put here, that workers with existing skills will need to be upskilled to some degree, but they'll also need to become familiar more around, they'll keep their existing skills, but they'll need to become familiar with the properties of hydrogen and handling it, which is slightly different to what exists now. And then there'll also be obviously hazard areas and emergency response and QA, all of those sort of specialist capabilities. And they are existing capabilities that will just need to be upskilled for the hydrogen, from the hydrogen perspective. From our wind perspective, I think, very similar sort of skills will be required. We're looking at our offshore wind development to be coming online anywhere from the late 20s. The Hunter Offshore Coast zone is already being assessed by the government. We are working with Blue Float Energy. We have a 50-50 JV with them right now, which is fantastic. And the opportunity there is to really work with them who are detailed, they have a lot of detailed understanding about offshore wind, coming together with our understanding of the Australian electrical network, our skills in renewable energy and development in Australia, and our stakeholders in and around the area. The offshore wind is a really interesting prospect for the Hunter because we already have a lot of constraints in the network, the electrical network around the Hunter. There will need to be a lot more transmission lines, and we think there may be some social licenses associated with that. So being able to produce wind offshore and to be able to bring it onshore by cables, or to be able to potentially produce hydrogen offshore and be able to pipe that into Newcastle and the surrounds, we'll be able to enhance the hydrogen economy in a more straightforward way than we think that it will be from a social license perspective to bring in electrical networks. We work very closely with BZE, Beyond Zero Emissions. They have obviously developed their renewable industrial precincts strategy, and the Hunter Valley is one of their focuses. So we follow what they're up to. We work closely with them, and it's a delight to work with them. And we're very much aligned with their views around ensuring that Tomago aluminium smelter ensures that it stays on. Even though we have so much construction, we have so much opportunity around development of the other industries, and we also have network constraints. So there'll be competing efforts, but we know that we need to keep that on. And we want to ensure that the coal industry remains solid for as long as it needs to, and that there is a just and a fair and reasonable evolution from that as well. So just quickly, we put some numbers around what the hydrogen economy would look like, and if we're looking at, what would be required to support it, you need the wind and the solar generation, and how much would be required as investment for that. Ammonia plants, e-fuel plants, even a gigafactory, which is an electrolyser factory, given that there will be a number of electrolysers required for our project and many others, but also a liquid hydrogen plant and a number of other manufacturing opportunities. It's a really big one for us, and I think it's a great opportunity. And I guess just to finish off, we would say that the hydrogen backbone is something that we're looking at. We see that the shared infrastructure pipeline that we're proposing would be able to be connected into a much larger network of hydrogen transmission pipelines going forward. When you look at what is required from a hydrogen perspective from demand globally, it's really not a far stretch to think that we would have hydrogen pipelines connecting our strategic hydrogen economy centres, and this would be a great opportunity for the Hunter. So that's it from me. I hope that that's all worked fine. And I look forward to hearing from anybody else.
Thanks, Simone. That was really informative and an excellent presentation. I think you made a very valid point. When we talk about existing skill sets that exist in society already, and probably a lot of the delegation here today, what recommendation would you give to any of the cohort listening to take that path to upskill and understand the properties of hydrogen and hydrogen handling processes so that they're ready for these opportunities?
That's a great question. Incredibly, there is the universities and the TAFEs are already looking at this. And in fact, online, Swinburne University, the report that I mentioned, they actually have within that report a whole list of all of the universities that are and the TAFEs that are already putting skills courses together for hydrogen and hydrogen related economy. So that'd be the right place to do it to start with. And they can be online, or there's a lot of opportunity to be sort of in person and being able to share that skill base as well. So yeah, that would be really good.
And connecting early on as well to make sure that they're in constant communication, know where the project's at is always important too.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it's great that we're getting on the front foot for this sort of thing, because the way we see it, if we're early and we go fast, then Australia can be, they can basically utilise the world-leading education facilities that we already have. We already know that we're leaders in this space, and that we can really become a hydrogen, I guess, gold standard for education as well. And to be able to do that, I guess we need to move quickly, and we need to be able to commercialise a lot of these projects that everyone's talking about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Simone.